Are you an expat or an immigrant living abroad? I don't want to say strange country, but in a foreign country. And now that we have entered the holiday season and you're starting to feel a change in your mood, do you know what could be happening? There is a thing called holiday blues, which is different from what we refer to as seasonal affective disorder or SAD. I think it's worth taking a look and see what could be happening. Don't go anywhere. Hi, if you don't know who I am, my name is Maggie. I am a retired psychiatric nurse practitioner, a registered nurse who's been living here in Panama as a full-time retiree since January 2023. I am coming up on my third anniversary, and I am so excited and still very blessed and grateful. I am also the creator of SWRA, Single Women Retiring Abroad, a group of sassy older ladies such as myself who have made a conscious decision to live the rest of our lives here in this beautiful country of Panama, create community, reinvent ourselves, but the ultimate goal of vision for SWRA is to create a newer model of aging abroad that is sustainable and affordable. If any of this is of any interest to you, I invite you to like the video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you click on that little bell so that you do not miss any of my videos or when I go live, which I do quite often. I am so happy to be talking to you today because as a psychiatric nurse practitioner and even as a regular person, I'm very intuitive and I'm also very in tune with my own mood and emotion, and also can tell when I'm kind of falling off a little bit. And I do the self-talk to kind of bring myself back to center. But the first thing is to know yourself and understand that it is a thing that does happen. All right. So we talked about holiday blues. How do they define holiday blues? And for example, for your benefit, it's between like early November to like early January, not just only in Panama, because I think the holiday season in Panama starts about November as well. But if you're thinking of the Western part of the country or the US, Canada, any of those places, they have seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter. I'm thinking in Spanish right now. But whenever the sun starts to, you're going to have shifts in sunlight and a lot of darkness, dark clouds and rain. Sometimes people's mood seems to shift with the decrease in sunlight. Okay. So places like Seattle, they'll tell you people tend to be a little bit low energy, low mood, and there is some incidences of suicide, right? And I remember being in England and it was like, oh, dreary and rainy. I don't know. I haven't looked at whether there is an increase incidence of depression or anything in those places, but those of us who are used to the sunlight, I'm Caribbean, lots of sunlight. Go to Africa, lots of sunlight. Here in Panama, lots of sunlight. I don't know that my mood is so affected because I love rainy days, but some people seem to be affected by the lack of sunlight. So the holiday blues really are associated with the holiday season, just that time where people feel a little tense, a bit overwhelmed with the expectations, parties, cooking, buying gifts, Decorating the house, that's a lot of expectations and a lot of work. So it's like the mood starts shifting to, oh no, all that stress, all this expectation. And then, they start exhibiting some symptoms of low mood, low energy, anxiety, difficulty sleeping. The difference between the holiday blues and the seasonal affective disorder is that the holiday blues, it's not something that happens all the time or every year, whereas that SAD, the seasonal affective disorder, tends to happen every year. It's like it starts in the fall, starts earlier, and then it lasts longer. So it's kind of a type of depression, right? Because, depression is a significant condition. In fact, I was reading that it is ranked third condition that causes a lot of disability and disruption in people's lives, according to the WHO, the World Health Organization. And they are expecting that it would move up to number one by 2030. What would be causing all that? A lot of uncertainty in this world that we're living in, a lot of injustice, a lot of disruption. It's like people like to stir the pot. It's like we can't have peace. Somebody's going to come up with something somewhere that kind of grieves us and causes us to become fearful for the future, for our safety, for our families. So depression itself is, you can't self-diagnose. I mean, I could, right? But you cannot self-diagnose yourself saying, oh, is that depression? You need to go to a doctor. The doctor will say, okay, now when you go to see a doctor as an older person, even as a younger person, they make you take this little questionnaire and they'll say, I think it's called PHQ, 4 or 8. And it's been a while since I used that tool. And they want to ask you, have you felt low mood, a loss of interest in things that used to interest you in the last 2 weeks, right? Because if the symptoms are persistent, the low mood, low energy, can't sleep, you eating, overeating, or lack of appetite, that sense of worthlessness and despair. It's a big word, despair. Then you could be diagnosed with depression, right? And there is a manual called DSM-5 that is from the American Psychology, Association, and they just kind of give you some guideline, which is nice. Guidelines are good to help you diagnose these folks because a lot of these people are being diagnosed now by the general practitioners because you probably don't have enough psychiatrists. Like my daughter didn't follow through with her becoming a psychiatrist. And I think she would have been a good one. But I digress. So if you are, well, let's go back to depression. If the doctor says, oh, yeah, well, I think you fit the criteria, then the first thing he's going to do that we used to do, we don't just go get the pad and start writing description for you. We would say, why don't you go talk to somebody, right? We used to call it cognitive behavioral therapy. And today I was reading, it's called talk therapy. Well, I think it's the same, but anyway, what do I know? I'm no longer in practice. So you talk to someone about what could make you be feeling this way, right? It's like trauma, loss, major life events, marriage, divorce, moving abroad, the loss of a partner, a loved one, loss of a child. Whew, that's a lot, right? But they also would ask you questions about, is there anyone in your family who suffers with these diseases? And there is a strong familial connection and genetics. And they also recognize early trauma, kids who've been abused, put in foster care or dismissed, neglected, substance abuse. There's a lot. And there is so much trauma and awful things that happen to people in this world that I can understand why somebody would become depressed. All right? So after the therapy, the doctor will probably put you on medication, and it takes weeks for the medication to take effect. Because listen, clinical depression, it has other causes like the ones I just mentioned. But uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The clinical uh, disruptions that happen in the brain is an imbalance in certain hormones in your brain, right? Things like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. And when we give you medications, they just tend to straighten out the imbalance. So that's why when you stop taking your medications, you're doing yourself a disservice. And that also applies to all these other psychiatric disorders, like bipolar disorder. Oh, you're in a manic phase and you feel you don't need it and you crash. So please, whatever your doctor has given you, take your medication. So what are some other causes that pertain to like us as immigrants? Now, we talked about some major life situations that could cause you to go into a depressive state. But now not only do you have maybe the loss of a partner, you're a widow, loss of career. I told you in a video how I grieve that, not having to go somewhere, that sense that I'm no longer creative, I am no longer needed, I'm no longer productive. That's a grief, right? So you got to deal with that. You grieve when you become an empty nester because your whole life was evolved around taking care of your kids, your husband. Let's say your husband dies or you divorce, so you don't have that. The kids got up and left, and you by yourself with the dog, if you have a dog. So you have loss after loss after loss, and it's a lot to deal with. Then you decide, oh, I'm not going to stay here any longer. I can't stand the political situation. My money is not going to go far enough. I'm moving to Panama. I'm moving to Portugal. I am going to Thailand. So you don't think that's grief? That is grief. And I told you before, you have to be aware that there is going to be that sense of loss and you have to readjust. Like they say, develop a new routine. But the first thing you need to understand is the impact that all these changes can have on you as a person. And if you had things happen to you in the past and you did not develop those coping mechanisms, how do I handle loss? How do I handle uncertainty? Then it's going to come to the fore after you move abroad. So that holiday blues picture can be your situation right now. I was grieving all that loss, but now I'm grieving the loss of my home. What I perceived my future was going to be. I was going to retire in my country. Now I'm in a strange country. I gave up my home, my car. I left my friends and family, the familiar, the thing that I'm used to, that sense of identity, my dentist, my doctor, my store, my hairdresser, my people who do my toes. It's a lot to deal with. And you have got to come to terms with it and say, okay, if I'm feeling a certain way, I understand why I'm feeling a certain way and acknowledge it because you're not crazy. You're human. You are not a tree. I keep saying that. So coming to another country will, at times, I'm not saying all the time, might exacerbate that sense of loss and that sense of grief. So when the holidays come around, we just had Thanksgiving. I went out of my way to try to find sisters who were alone and say, come on over. We don't want you to be alone. Because I know staying in that little apartment, eating popcorn and chips and, all the stuff you're not supposed to because you by yourself, especially if you just got here. You don't know anybody. You feel disconnected. So you may be experiencing the holiday blues. I'm not going to call it seasonal affective disorder. So that sense of being disconnected from the familiar, being in a foreign land, around people who speak a different language, people who have a different culture. You might hear all the parades and the noise and the music, and they get on your nerves because you're not used to it. Different foods, no sidewalks, dogs, dog barking, honking. It's a lot, sis. And then you're like, okay, I may be missing my mama. My mama used to have a big spread around Thanksgiving, and now all of a sudden it comes to the fore to overwhelm you with that feeling of sadness and loss. My children, hopefully you have good relationship with them. I was watching Oprah yesterday. She's so good at doing those talk shows, but everybody calls it a podcast now. I'm like, okay, it's an interview podcast. Okay. And she had some people on her show yesterday about children who have been estranged from their families for whatever reason. Apparently, it's a new trend, not a fad anymore, she said. And she had experts on to explain why children felt a need to totally dissociate for their families. I haven't finished watching the episode, but this person was estranged from his family because they did not accept his wife. And, there's so many reasons why you might consider not, cutting ties with your family, but that's still your family. They may have hurt you, your feelings, but they're still your family. I don't know. I feel like it's not a good thing to do that. Now, if there's abuse and constant verbal and conflict and demeaning conversation, I get it. I really do get it. And I will try to do my best to really get us together so we can do the kumbaya and air it out, because I don't think it's worth it to just totally cut off your family. You can't cut off your arm. You need your arm. But let's go back to being an expat or an immigrant abroad and experiencing those feeling of loss. I tell you, you're going to feel that. It's not a physical loss, it's a mental loss. You're not connected. You're not in your community. And that sense of grieving that you feel like you were forced to make that decision. I feel like that. It wasn't something I would, 20 years before I said, oh, I'm going to move abroad. No, the circumstances cause you to uproot yourself, your family. We have lots of younger families here. It is hard. The physical symptoms you might feel with those situations, like in holiday blues, the sense could be that you want to do too much. Well, I did the Friendsgiving, but I'm like, I'm not doing Christmas, okay? Because I got to balance it out, right? So you don't want to overdo it, trying to compensate for the fact that you don't have what you had before. And it's more like maybe no expectations. You don't have friends, so you don't have to worry about buying gifts. I was talking to one of our cluster sisters the other day. She said, I'm wrapping gifts for, she got a charity and a group of people. And that's one antidote to fighting the holiday blues, getting involved, volunteer. And we're going to talk about that in 1 second. I'm looking at the time, right? And then a sense of, I have no energy. Oh, I just want to sleep in the bed. Sleeping a lot is a really good, strong symptoms of depression. People covering their heads and closing the blind and sleeping for hours a day. No bueno. That's not normal. That loss of interest in things that you used to enjoy. No bueno. And Ahedonia, I think they call it. Ahedonia, right? No, no bueno. So if for me, if I decided, oh, I don't want to cook, oh, I'm not interested at all, ding, 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 because that's something that I love to do. So when you lose interest doing the things that you used to enjoy, you used to, like this sister plays volleyball. If she just said, no, I'm not playing volleyball anymore, I'm not doing this, somebody needs to talk to her and start asking questions. Because sometimes the signs are there, but there is nobody cares. And that's what we don't want to happen to our sisters in SWRA. We want to check in. How you doing, sis? You good? What are you doing? But if you say, oh, I've been in bed for 3 days, we're going to come and say, okay, what's going on? Right? You want somebody who care what's happening to you. Eating a lot. I tend to overeat when I'm stressed. Or not eating. Weight loss, weight gain. No bueno. And I think the worst thing in depression is that sense of hopelessness, that nothing is going to make it better. And you know that's not true. You know it's your brain playing dirty tricks on you because it's never that hopeless. And that's why a lot of time when we give you that hotline to go talk to someone and you reach someone, they'll say, it's never hopeless. Somebody, I care. And that's what you want, what you need, that connection. Okay, so you don't want to get in that black hole. That's what I call it. I experienced some depression in my younger years. I remember when I moved to Florida, my marriage was in, you have young kids, you got a job, you're overwhelmed, you're in a new place. Yes, I was in a funk. I acknowledge it. I looked for help. I could not find help. But I remember being in that dark hole where you feel like something is sucking you in and taking you way deep. But I remember crawling up saying, oh, this is not good. This is not good. You got to crawl your way back up so you can see the sunlight because there is always hope. And I feel bad for those who just kind of give up. And it's not an easy decision. I think you have to really be deep down in the hole to do that. Because even with everything that is happening around the world, when I see so much hate, so much disdain for human life, and then somebody would do something, and I'm like, you know what? It kind of restores my faith in humanity. So you can't allow yourself to just give up that nobody cares. And I want to be the person to come and say, oh, sis, what's happening with you? Let me come talk to you. And that's what we need to be for each other. All right, let's get back to the holiday blues. How do you fight that? Because, from November to early January, if you're in Panama, all November had fiestas, but that's for Panamanian. What about you? You're not Panamanian. Do you resent them being so happy and create your own tradition, right? And then you get to December, Christmas. Oh, Christmas, away from home. What am I going to do? There's no snow. There is no, the little person, what is it? When they would be standing in front of the stores and I forgot, the bread. Another thing that happens to you when you move abroad, especially as an older person, is the dread that you feel looking forward. Knowing that this temple is going down, knowing that you don't really have anybody to look after you. That's what SWRA is trying to do for you, sis. But that sense of dread, of the unknown, and it is a big reason that sometimes couples together, sometimes there's a double suicide. We've experienced it as caregivers. People get sick and they lose their independence and they don't want to depend on someone else. We got to fight. We got to fight. We got to create a new normal. We got to create a new reality. All right. How do you fight the holiday blues? Acknowledge your feeling. You're not crazy. You're not a tree. Yes, You're feeling disconnected. Yes. You're grieving the loss of everything that you've left. Yes. You're dreading what's coming. But you're not the only one to have gone through it. We're all going to go through it. So let's hold hands and support each other. Self-care, exercise, eating right. Make sure you get some good sleep. Go see your doctor. Make sure your labs and stuff are okay. Get your massages. There's a sister who said, I was going to get my massage. And I'm like, oh, she gets regular massages. I'm impressed. I don't, but once in a while I do. Mani-pedi, nothing that makes me feel so good than just get my nails done. This is good, right? I don't even think of this hair, so nothing to do with hair, right? Massages, go shopping, buy something for you. Go to your favorite coffee shop. Have a pastry, have a latte, cappuccino. Yes, self-care. Cooking. I'm cooking. I have Sarah Brightman on, Andrea Bocelli. Listen, the good hormones are flowing because it elevates my mood. I put some salsa music and I start doing my salsa. Self-care, sis. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a dancer at all, but I enjoy it. Number 3, build a support system. You cannot isolate, sis. This is the worst thing you can do. Oh, I don't want to be around people. Well, make yourself get out. Join some groups. Go to lunch. No, I feel like I'm speaking to the choir because people are just so engaged here. But do you know, have you ever heard that you could be in a crowd and still feel lonely? Uh-huh. It's a mindset, that self-talk. Go and be around people. Go people watch. Talk to yourself. When you see yourself being sucked in, saying, oh, no, 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 sis. We have to get out of there. Let's go for a walk. That's what I do. I make myself go for a walk and I start looking around. Get out in the sun. Vitamin D is one of the best things you can do for yourself. We got plenty of it. Make it a point for you to get some vitamin D. Be realistic with the expectations, okay? Don't overdo it. I'm not cooking for Christmas. I already did it for Thanksgiving. I know my limits. Don't overdo it trying to get into people's good graces or because you want people to talk about you. They'll talk about you, but not in the way you want or expect. So don't do it. Don't overcommit. Know your limits and manage your time well. Create new traditions. Friendsgiving is a new tradition for us here. We're going to the Mother's Day retreat. We're going to make it a tradition. Maybe once a month, we're going to do something. We're going to create some tradition going forward. You need to do that. Because, you know, women, humanity, we need to be connected. God did not create Adam, he created Eve. I don't know whether you believe that or not, but it's like you need community, you need people, sis. No one's an island. It's a horrible thing to grow old and be all alone with no one to talk to, no one to care about you. Oh, that is so sad. Don't isolate. Talk to someone if you need to. You know, there's a sister here who is a mental health counselor, and I think she does take cases online. I don't do that because I'm not licensed, but you can find someone if you need to talk to. Talk to your sisters. We have the chat in the morning, you know, in every day we talk in the chat. We have our little clusters of 3, 4, 5. Get close to your sisters. We need to work at breaking down the barriers of, I think we get so guarded because we've been hurt. People we expected to be in our corner all of a sudden turn around and show their true faces to you. And that is very disheartening. But as I always say, expect it. Because if it happens when you expect it, you're like, oh, okay. It will still hurt. It will still hurt. But you're not going to be, you know, so hurt that you can function, that, you know, you're going to be frozen. No, you move on because the world is a big world and there are other people. People will disappoint you every single time. You're going to have more disappointment than people who just make yourself stay with those. Acknowledge the other one, but don't let it drag you down. All right, sis? So talk to someone, talk to your sisters, stick to your sisters. Let's work at breaking down the sense of being guarded because we can trust someone. That's why I don't have a lot of friends. I have a few friends because you have to be tested. And every time I said, give people time, they will reveal themselves to you. And they do. And they do. But that does not turn me into a bitter person. I just put them to the side. But as I always say, if you need me, sis, I'm right there for you. I am. At this stage in life, I don't take things too seriously. I don't take people too seriously. So, like I told the sister, I'm like, don't think you're going to hurt me. I mean, it will hurt temporarily when somebody says something to you or does something temporarily. You're not a tree. But you don't internalize it and say, oh, I must be a horrible person. I'm not. I'm not saying she's either, right? She's her. I'm me. We keep it moving. We're doing the Kim, right? All right, sis, I hope you understood and you're going to take stock of your feeling around this holiday season. Understand there is a term called holiday blues. So if you feel a little bit of a funk, it's okay. You just need to do that self-talk to get yourself out of it and understand that the holiday season, all the hoopla and the stress and the expectation, plus you had the nerve to leave everything and come over here. So what did you expect, huh? Don't forget the honeymoon season. I said the honeymoon season could be anytime between 6 months to a year where you're like I was watching some people on Dakar 23 doing the flipping and dancing. Yeah, they're happy. They just got here. But when you by yourself, how do you feel? Are you this happy inside or only outside? I have no idea what they, okay, I'll take it. But anyway, sis, I hope you enjoyed this talk. I try to keep things light because I am a kind of lighthearted person. And yes, I get my stressful time. And yes, I get my downtime. I get my little pity party with myself, but I can talk myself out of it quite effectively. When you live by yourself, you talk to yourself. So talk positivity into your own life. All right? I'll see you in the next video. God loves you. I love you. Au revoir. À la prochaine. Bye.